Hello, nice of you to join me again, and today I'm talking about Olympus's recent entrance into the world of wireless flash triggers. When Olympus launched their wireless control flash gun system, there was a howl of derision from the combined blogosphere and on the photographic forums. Mainly it went along the lines of Olympus had totally lost the plot in charging so much for something that others were offering so cheaply. Now, if all you want to do is take casual portraits or simple portraits with a couple of off-camera speed lights, then maybe there is something to this argument. I'm going to make a quick comparison. Okay, if I were to build up a system of two flashes that can be controlled by a radio TTL trigger, such as the Godox system, so the trigger and the two flashes in Australia would set you back 489 Australian dollars. Now, to get something comparable with using the Olympus equipment, to buy the controller and two of the flash guns, that would set you back over $1,200. Now that is a lot of difference. $700, $800 is a lot of money. And then the Godox fans will tell you that their system is more flexible, because if you change camera system, all you have to do is change the wireless trigger, as it'll then keep continuing to work with your existing speed lights. And on the face of it, that's quite a compelling argument. But this really doesn't tell you the whole story. And it assumes that you've got no existing flash equipment at all. Okay? And that all you want to do is shoot basic lighting setups with either TTL or fully manual control. And this probably doesn't suit a lot of Olympus users, because a lot of people who are attracted to the Olympus camera system aren't just attracted by the small size of the cameras. No, but they are also attracted by the advanced features that the cameras offer, such as the high-res mode, both handheld and tripod mode models, the neutral density mode, live bulb, live time, live composite, multi-exposures, art filters, picture modes, interval shooting. I mean, there are so many advanced Olympus features built into these cameras these days. And Godox only offers straightforward flash units. They don't offer things like Olympus's ST-F8 for macro and close-up photography. So there is no way of controlling that unit with a Godox system. So if you want to do more specialist types of photography using flash on the Olympus system, then you have really got to start looking at Olympus's own radio controlled flash triggers, which are these. Now, I wanted to put around a system based on my existing flash units I already had. I had an Olympus FL-600R, the aforementioned ST-F8, two Metz 44 AF1s and a Metz 64 AF1. So I didn't want to go out and buy the 700WR, the 700Rs, because that would just be duplicating equipment that I already had. So I bought myself one of these, which is the FC-WR This is the bit that sits on your camera and transmits the signals. And I bought 3 of these, which is the FC-WR, and these are the receivers that sit underneath your flash guns. Now, it still isn't a super cheap option, but it's one that gives me a lot of scope. Now, when I started looking into all this, there wasn't a lot of information on the net, and this is because the system hadn't been well received. I'd only seen one review from Red 35 in London about using these, and he was using them for portraiture. So I didn't know if everything I had, particularly the Metz units, would work with the system, and I also wanted to know if the system was fully compatible with my Panasonic G85 as well. Okay, let's look at these units in more detail. First up, we'll look at the FC-WR. Now firstly, the WR is Olympus speak for the fact that it has a degree of weather resistance, and this is a huge positive for me because I shoot a lot of nature stuff outside in all weathers, and I want to know my kit will keep on working if it happens to rain. I get caught in a downpour. So Olympus doesn't specify the degree of water resistance on these units, but they do say that the unit will operate in temperatures ranging from -10 degrees C to 40 degrees C, and in humidity up to 90%. I didn't throw it in a bucket of water, but I have, as I said, used it out on the rain on a few occasions, and suffered no problems with it. And when I opened up the battery compartment, it was dry, so the sealing is evidently working. The control unit is operated by 2 AAA batteries, and that was a little bit of a disappointment as far as I was concerned initially, because I would have liked AA's, as it would mean I'd only have to carry one type of battery, and AA's tend to last longer. But in practice, I'm still using the first set of AAA's that I put in here, and you know, I've had the units 3-4 months, and I've been using them quite extensively, so not such a big problem after all. And the size of the AAA's is a lot smaller than AA's, so that helps keep the size down. Physically, it's made out of a sturdy plastic, which when you squeeze it, it doesn't creak or flex, which is good, so it feels quite solid and well made. The door to the battery compartment, as you can see, is on a sprung hinge and slides to lock and open. It fits well. There is some initial resistance to it moving, so there won't be any accidental opening, which is nice to know. On the base here, there's a locking hot shoe with the standard micro 4/3 protocol pins providing your electrical contact. On the top is a large LCD screen which gives all the necessary information, and it is backlit. Underneath there are 3 buttons, just here, A, B and C they're labelled, and that controls each one of the 3 groups of flash guns that this unit can operate. Underneath the 3 buttons there's a mode button here, a test button, a dial and combo rocker switch, which surrounds an OK button, and finally the on-off button. A nice touch is that if you turn your camera off while this is mounted, then it will automatically switch off. And if you restart your camera within about 10 minutes or so, this will switch back on automatically. Any longer than that and you have to press the on-off button. Right, let's have a look at the receiver. Again, in terms of construction, what I said about the commander applies here. On top of the receiver is your standard micro 4/3 protocol hot shoe. On the base there is a lock-in cold shoe, and it also has a 1/4-20 mount here as well. On the left side, if you're looking from the front, you have got this. This is a PC sync socket. Now, I don't know if anybody actually uses these anymore, but it will allow you to trigger a studio monoblock or a power pack, should you so wish. On the other side, you have got a battery compartment door. Again, it slides to unlock, slides to lock, and this unit also takes AAA batteries. On the back, you can see we've got 2 dials and then 3 buttons. This first dial allows you to select the channel, and there are 15 channels in total. The other dial, this allows you to select groups A, B and C, and then with the 3 buttons you have got the on-off switch. Okay, then you've got a button for switching on or off an audible bleep for when the unit's recharged. I leave it on. I find it quite helpful, particularly as the flash is away from me. I can't necessarily see it, so that gives me that cue. And at the top there's this handily named XRCV button, and this allows you to either assign control of the flash to the commander unit, or you set the controls manually on the flash itself. Now I choose to control the flash via the commander unit, as I find that more convenient.
For me, as someone who does a lot of close-up and macro photography, the exciting thing about the Olympus radio flash triggers is that they can be combined with the Olympus ST-F8 twin head flash unit. This enables the ST-F8 to be used in conjunction with other flash units for creative effect. To do so, you will need a flash bracket to mount the FR-WR flash receiver and the ST-F8 flash gun to the camera. But once you've done that, it is all very straightforward and easy to use.
And for this lighting scenario, using the Olympus wireless flash triggers, I am going to shoot with high-speed flash sync, and I'm using a third-party flash gun, which is the Metz 64 AF1. So let's hop into it and see how it does. This is the more traditional use for using radio triggers, and that is shooting portraiture. So right now I've got my camera set up on the tripod. Over here I have a Metz 64 AF1 shooting through a brolly box. I've set everything to TTL control, and I'm using the app to control everything. So let's go. And it's as simple as that. Well, I've set up here now to do some focus stacking using the Olympus EM1 2, using the flash triggers to trigger my flashes. Now, before we get started, there are a couple of caveats for using this system. First off, you can only use electronic shutter. This means that your fastest flash sync speed is 1/50th of a second. Another caveat is that there is no TTL flash. You have to set the exposures manually. Another one is that you have got to use a Pro Series lens for the function to work. And the last one is that this slightly crops the finished image, which means that you have to be careful when framing up. Luckily, frame lines do show up on the rear LCD when using that to guide you with this. Okay, so what have we got? Well, behind this diffusion screen come background, we have the Metz 64 AF1. Here behind the little mini softbox, we have the Olympus FL-600R. As I said, I've got my 12 to 40 on the camera. I'm shooting wide open at f2.8, and my shutter speed is of course 1/50th of a second. So I will focus on the near figure of C3PO. I've set the camera to take 14 shots to R2D2 here, and in the parameters I've also set that there will be a 2-second delay between the shots to allow the flashes to recharge, and that's quite important, otherwise you'll just get blank frames. Okay, let's go. And it quickly works through this. You can see virtually the picture building on the rear screen. Let's just check it. And that's fine. Both of the figures are in focus. I find the Olympus high-res mode to be a very useful function when doing art reproduction. When using the high-res mode, there are much the same operating parameters as using the focus stacking. And I'll just repeat those. You can only use electronic shutter. You can only use a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. You can only use manual flash control, not TTL. But with this one, you're not just limited to using the Pro Series lenses. I often do use the 60mm macro, and occasionally the 25mm f1.7. So again, same setup. I have got on this side the Olympus FL-600R, and on this side the Metz 64AF1. I have set my camera shutter speed 1/50th of a second. f5.6 is my aperture, and my ISO is 200. Again, when setting up the high res function, give yourself time for the flashes to recharge between shots. I've allowed 2 seconds, you could allow more than that. And also the other thing is allow a good amount of time from tripping the shutter to the shutter going off as well, so there are no vibrations or anything like that. The camera will then take a series of 8 shots with the sensor being shifted round for each 8 shot. So here we go. Right, so in conclusion, well, let's get the niggly issue out of the way first. Yes, the system is expensive, you know, and I wish that it was a little bit cheaper. Who doesn't like cheap gear? But having said all that, you get rock solid dependability. I found the Godox units were a little bit flaky at times. There were the occasional misfires where the flash didn't go off. I'm prepared to pay a little bit more to get dependability. Now let's look at the good stuff. I like the fact that the operation of the constituent parts is seamless, even when using the advanced Olympus camera features. The build quality and the weather resistance is excellent. The fact that this works with Panasonic cameras is great. Cross-compatibility was another factor that was quite high on my list when I got into the Micro Four Thirds system. I like the fact that you had, from the very beginning, Olympus and Panasonic making equipment that could be used with each other's lenses and cameras. It was great. And this, the fact that it works on Panasonic's cameras, is another good thing. And then the final fact is that you can use this with third-party speed lights, and that is, to me, another huge bonus. So, taking all that into consideration, if you are a Micro Four Thirds user and want a rock-solid off-camera flash solution that gives you access to multi-flash setups, even with specialist close-up equipment, or using the in-camera features such as focus stacking or high-res mode, then I think it's worth spending the cash. I hope you all found this useful. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you'll join me in another video soon. Bye.